What was supposed to be an ordinary evening has shocked the reality TV business. The level of emotions is at an all-time high. There are rumors going around and fans are shocked. Mendeecees and Tamar Braxton, two names who have become synonymous with drama, are the focus of speculations when an alleged private moment between them appeared out of the blue. Yandy found herself in the midst of an unanticipated tornado, as what had begun as a relaxed evening descended into chaos. Eyewitnesses describe a stressful, perplexing, and highly emotional situation in which alcohol appeared to erase boundaries and ignite fights that had been simmering under the surface for a very long time. Viewers are divided as the news travels faster than anybody could have imagined. While some are fascinated, others are horrified. Is this a crucial point in a narrative that fans think they comprehend? In reality, what happened behind closed doors? What will become of the intricate network of connections that has enthralled viewers for years? What will the family's response be? Without a question, the stakes are high, the drama is enormous, and nobody is going to get away. Not heard. Keep an eye out, because what you're about to discover will lead you to reconsider all of your preconceived notions about these reality stars. A feeling of casual as the evening began, the gathering was filled with joy. Nobody could have predicted how quickly the evening would turn into chaos at first. The energy shifted slowly and almost imperceptibly. Until the music and laughing filled the room, the tension became apparent. Followers on social media saw subtle hints in posts and narratives. Conversations that seemed typical to the superficial glance, but had more profound ramifications. Behind the polite greetings and pleasantries, a storm was gathering. Known for their intriguing personalities and prior controversies, Mendeecees and Tamar Braxton became themselves in a string of events that would later cause the neighborhood to tremble. The events were described by witnesses as a blur, with intoxication eroding boundaries and promoting emotional disclosures that shouldn't have been heard. Typically, voices that had been controlled were unfiltered and honest. Occasionally, laughing exploded into heated talks about past grievances. The difference was apparent to even casual onlookers. It was definitely dramatic, suspenseful, and surprising. This is not what I expected. As the conversation became more intense, the buddy remembered whispering. The tension that had been building for months seemed to burst out of nowhere. Everybody in the room felt a bit uncomfortable, since it was a scenario that could only occur on reality television. It felt so genuine. However, Yandy, who had been on the periphery, immediately saw that there was a change. She had spent years managing intricate interpersonal interactions, so her half-heard comments and subtle looks implied something more than casual conversation. She had consistently kept a sharp sense of intuition. As she drew nearer, she saw the closeness between Mendeecees and Tamar. A familiarity that seemed innocuous but had deeper significance that made her heart skip a beat. What's going on here? She wondered, her mind racing through scenarios she prayed would never materialize. Every movement and laugh appeared to be amplified, and the space seemed smaller, as if the world was emphasizing how dire the situation was. Waves of tension and laughter alternated throughout the evening. Mendeecees tried to maintain his composure, but it was clear that his usual self-control had been undermined by booze. Tamar was equally affected and said things that she might have carefully avoided if she had been sober. There was too much real feeling below. Every touch was felt, every word was heard, and the intensity of the interactions created a scenario that was both intriguing and unnerving. Despite friends' efforts to steer talks into safer areas by interjecting, others around felt the energy surge. A little but significant event occurred as some of the guests were leaving, as if everyone was holding their breath for the next disclosure or explosion. Intimacy that would later dominate. Social media talks was hinted at in a short exchange that was almost imperceptible to the untrained eye. The situation suggested that boundaries had been crossed in unexpected ways rather than being overtly offensive. Rumors began to circulate almost immediately as fans examined images and videos to generate a whirlwind of speculation. Comments poured in as viewers tried to piece together the event's timeline. on every stage, from astonishment to zeal. Did it really happen? I can't believe this is really coming out. Read one response. While I can't believe this is truly emerging. The hysteria had begun, and the tension of the night only grew as more answers surfaced the following day. Meanwhile, Yandy was having trouble understanding what she had seen. Her emotions shifted rapidly between confusion, betrayal, and anxiety. Given that the situation was difficult to nevertheless, it was difficult to articulate her exact feelings. The mystery of the occasion added to its significance. The fact that the meeting had been hidden was just as important as the encounter itself. It was a private occurrence that unintentionally came to light. She began to pace, going over the events in her head, analyzing every gesture, glance, and word. The personal stakes were high, and she knew that what she did next might affect her future connections with friends and family. When they learned about the event, they experienced a combination of skepticism and contempt. And some questioned the integrity of the trust and connections built over many years. Others supported Mendeecees and Tamar by citing alcohol's consequences and human fallibility. Likewise, fans were vocal, sharing theories, gifs, and views on social media. The narrative swiftly evolved as each speaker gave the unfolding drama a new facet. What at first seemed to be a private matter became a public spectacle that had long-term repercussions for everyone involved because of the intensity of the feelings. The next day, screenshots and quotes began circulating online after private. Conversations unexpectedly made news in fan forums and entertainment sections. The media quickly picked up on the story, depicting it as a night that tested personal limits and relationships. There was much speculation about what would happen next, as onlookers discussed every situation. It served as a reminder of how quickly intimate events may become into widely reported stories in the linked reality TV world of today. Everything might alter as a result of this. As the hours extended into days, the degree of speculation reached previously unheard of heights. One onlooker said, "The family, the friendships, the public image, nothing will be the same." Experts in reality theater shared their thoughts, analyzing body language, tone of voice, and the events of the evening. Several highlighted the risks of mixing alcohol with complex personal histories. Others emphasized how social media can amplify even the smallest examples. Each viewpoint inspired a discussion that kept the narrative front and center. It had developed into a phenomenon that needed notice and debate, not just a fleeting rumor anymore. Throughout it all, Mendeecees and Tamar remained mostly silent. Leaving through perception and reaction, the story develops organically. Supporters tried to read between the lines, searching for indications of remorse, defiance, or justification. And their curiosity was further piqued by this silence. Every subtle action post was watched by the public in an effort to learn the truth behind the leaks. The tension became almost unbearable. Yandy's emotional roller coaster was exacerbated by this scrutiny as she managed her feelings in a culture that seemed prepared to judge. Every glance, every exchange, every discussion suddenly had weight. We looked at and assessed moments that may not have mattered in other situations. There was not space for objectivity due to the intense emotions at every turn. The night's events had altered relationships and set off a chain of events that revealed the weakness of trust, tried patience, and challenged allegiances. It served as a reminder of the thin line that divides private life from public display and how quickly it may be crossed when emotions and situations collide. As the story developed, the exchanges became more complex and sophisticated. What began as a single night became an ongoing narrative that had an impact on many facets of society. There were arguments among friends, family, and fans over what was proper, what might be forgiven, and what should never be ignored. The intricate web of relationships revealed previously hidden weaknesses, such as fears, insecurities, and ambitions that stoked the fires. With each new development and piece of information that was revealed, the drama intensified. Disclosed, suggesting that the effects will be noticed for weeks or possibly months to come. No one could overlook the chaos that resulted from the combination of leaked moments, public speculation, and personal responses as the emotional aftermath stretched relationships and compelled personalities to make both significant and illuminating. Everyone concerned was examined and asked to reflect. The initial moment had only lasted a few minutes, but its ramifications were still being felt, reminding everyone of the power of perception, the fragility of relationships, and the depth of human feeling under stressful situations. As the rumors and tales spread, Mendeecees, Tamar, Braxton, and Yandy's relationship became more complicated. Many questions remained unresolved, assumptions and emotional burden. In the presence of close friends, Mendeecees tried to be normal, but he was troubled by what had happened that night. His inebriated choices were replaying themselves in his mind. Tamar, on the other hand, hovered between guilt and defensiveness, unsure of how much of the conversation would be misinterpreted or exaggerated. Long-standing tension, emotion, and alcohol had created a perfect storm that is hard for either side to deal with. Since Yandy was hit with a combination of doubt and betrayal as she observed from a distance, she struggled to understand what she had seen and how it may affect her relationship with Mendeecees in the future. Her tone was her heart raced as she whispered to a friend, "I can't believe this. How did it get to this point? How did something so intimate become into a spectacle?" Barely audible over the background noise. Thought about the countless hours she had invested in building trust, only to have it collapse in unexpected ways. Friends tried to console her, but the intensity of her emotions made their words inadequate. As the days passed, the story developed a life of its own on the internet. Fans, experts, and entertainment analysts looked at each component. The weight of popular awareness when rumors about the night went viral. The personal stakes were further raised. Despite their best attempts to maintain discretion, every social media post, every cryptic remark, and every public appearance was scrutinized and reinterpreted. The three main figures could not escape the ongoing surveillance. During private conversations, emotions flared even more. At one point, in a calm but tense voice, Mendeecees said, "Tamar, you have to understand. I never intended for any of this to happen like this. I know, but you can't just pretend nothing happened." Was Tamar's equally emotional response? It simply spiraled that night. People have already seen it. The discussion highlighted the situation's emotional complexity, because fear, accountability, and responsibility are intertwined. It is impossible to respond directly while maintaining composure and determination. Yandy confronted the pair in her own distinctive style. "We must be truthful," she said quietly but firmly. "No matter what happened, I ought to know the truth. But I can't sit here speculating while everyone else believes they know more than I do," she said, reminding them all of the night's personal repercussions. As the confrontation got increasingly severe, voices hovered between incredulous sadness and wrath. Everyone participating was tired out but hesitant to quit the battle owing to the evident tension. Meanwhile, rumors about probable implications began to circulate swiftly. The primary subjects of conversation were future partnerships, trust, and even family dynamics. Boundaries, accountability, and forgiveness were prominent topics of discussion in both private and public settings. Supporters were divided. While some argued that mistakes sometimes happen, especially while drunk, others insisted that the incident was a betrayal that could not be ignored. Everyone involved was impacted by the discourses. Sense of urgency and unpredictability. A degree of shock and incredulity was added to all of this when it was revealed that Tamar had tested positive for pregnancy. As it became the subject of speculation, the emotional stakes rose. Yandy's reaction was a mix of fear and incredulity, whereas Mendeecees and Tamar had to deal with both public perception and personal responsibility. The tale had grown from a single night of excess into a complex web of emotions, decisions, and consequences that needed to be handled carefully. Friends and family were dragged into the drama and offered their own thoughts, judgments, and points of view. Some, however, encouraged seclusion and self-reflection while warning that if things are not handled carefully, they could worsen. Others emphasized empathy and understanding and urged dialogue and reconciliation. Every decision felt questionable because of the disputing council, which made things more stressful. The three main characters were constantly juggling conflicting priorities, ambitions against public scrutiny. Social media continued to play a major role in shaping the story. Every post inspired new conversations and fan speculations. In an attempt to find the truth behind the spectacle, followers examined each gesture, caption, and conversation. The story was maintained and its readership grew thanks to the proliferation of memes, response videos, and discussion threads. Decisions and behaviors were impacted in ways that extended well beyond the first evening, because of the almost tangible pressure that the strength of collective attention creates. The couple made an attempt to make apologies in private, but the emotional wounds endured, while Tamar faced anxiety of being judged and uncertainty about the future. Mendeecees wrestled guilt and responsibility. Once seemed honest chats transformed into lessons in deliberate language and emotional management. The complexity of their connected lives was mirrored in the layers of significance that each interaction carried. Clarity, due to the repercussions of actions taken while drunk. Resolution, and most importantly, responsibility, were now necessary. Yandy's perspective continues to be significant with her. Sentiments functioning as a lens through which viewers and analysts assess the building drama. Her desire for honesty, hurt, and feeling of betrayal enhanced the tale and exposed the human side of the spectacle. She exhibited the problem of simultaneously digesting the private and public sides of conflict by navigating encounters that combine vulnerability, boldness, and elegance. Tensions escalated when private messages and leaked conversations appeared public. Interpretations varied widely, with some emphasizing innocence and misunderstanding and other factors that indicate more complicated problems. Because the ambiguity fostered speculation, resolution became more difficult. Each motion and the public opinion court utilized the statement as evidence, which increased the emotional stakes and encouraged participation in disputes. Family members attempted to intervene and provide guidance and arbitration. The household was left divided between encouragement for close relationships and worry for public perception. Emotions were running high during get-togethers. Silence, raised shouts, and tears were intermingled with conversations. The intensity of these interactions demonstrated how the night's events had a profound effect on relationships that had seemed steady before. Mendeecees and Tamar made an effort to communicate their objectives and demonstrate remorse among the mayhem. As everyone tried to navigate the difficult terrain of emotion, accountability, and responsibility, heartfelt discussions, private apologies, and vulnerable moments were exchanged. Everyone concerned was reminded